Firstly, Ari, proponents of the BDS movement often say this is not anti-Semitic and it's just targeting Israel. What is the aim of the BDS movement, and can you separate it from anti-Semitism?
Hi, Sherry. Thank you for having me on tonight. The boycott movement likes to use words such as apartheid, genocide, ethnic cleansing, racist. And what is the worst thing any country in the world can be, but is embody those? And lo and behold, according to them, the only state in the world's only Jewish state, embodies all of these. And that is meant to delegitimize the country in the eyes of the world. And that really starts approaching anti Semitism when you start singling out and really delegitimizing the world's only Jewish state. And beyond that, a lot of the tactics that the boycott movement unfortunately uses also delve into anti Semitic tropes that we've seen used for centuries. And so while not everybody necessarily that supports the movement is anti Semitic, there are certainly large elements of the movement itself that are anti Semitic.
Well, the ultimate aim of the BDS movement is to end the existence of Israel, of a Jewish state.
Absolutely. And the leaders of the movement make it perfectly clear. They are not looking for a peaceful two-state solution. Their charter expressly rejects the idea of coexistence and calls for only resistance. And their aim is the dismantling of the state of Israel. And that's why we see these boycott campaigns and the people that join on to them as very misguided, because it is not doing anything to help bring the two sides together. All it's doing is helping foment more divisiveness. And people need to remember the boycott campaign has been around since 1945, before there was even a state of Israel, when the Arab League called for a boycott of Jews living at that time in British Mandate Palestine. So 80 years of boycott has not led to peace in any regard. And that's why we call on people and artists and musicians and entertainers to use their voice to try and bring the two sides together, which really is the most important thing that we feel people working in the arts and working with the artistic community can really do.
Ari, your organisation has been dealing with these issues now for a decade. How have the tactics that we've seen at the Sydney Festival over the past month been adopted from well-worn tactics that have been used in the United States and the UK?
As the artists have seen that have been targeted by this boycott campaign, they are very aggressive in their tactics, the boycott movement. People such as Paul McCartney and Lionel Messi, for going to perform in Israel or play a peace match, came under actual death threats. And here we've seen, once again, some of the artists that have resisted the calls for boycott, and even a few that have pulled out, have stated openly on their social media feeds they have been harassed, they've been targeted, and they've been bullied. And those are the tactics the boycott movement has used in the past, and it's tactics that the boycott movement is using for the Sydney Festival as well.
We're just starting to experience this in Australia. What else can we expect here that has already played out overseas?
Unfortunately, I think now that the boycott movement has felt that they've had a little bit of success and have energized the community there, I think they are going to be even more empowered to try and up the ante and be even more aggressive in their tactics. And unfortunately, what we're seeing around the world is a lot of the media, a lot of you see some influencers that are misinformed, really starting to buy into these narratives that are being pushed because social media amplifies a lot of these misinformation. And we are seeing that people are spreading this wildly on social media, and it's very difficult to counter it. Social media has really changed the calculus and how misinformation is being able to spread. And we've seen that here in America, not just related to Israel, but related to many other things, the elections here, for example. And so the boycott movement is very well funded. They have funding from a lot of leftist NGOs, from foreign countries, such as Qatar. We know there's bots, trolls, and fake account camps that are run out of Iran. That's been well documented. And their goal is to really flood social media with a lot of this misinformation and even target anybody that speaks up on behalf of Israel. So I think what we're going to see in Australia is just an increased increased amount of pressure put on people when they try and speak up on behalf of Israel, unfortunately.
You've organised a letter signed by many high-powered leaders in the entertainment industry to object to the boycott of the Sydney Festival. Apart from letters, how can we respond to this type of boycott? What's the best way for us to deal with this BDS movement?
Yeah, when we came into Australia and we rallied some of the members of the entertainment community there, they really weren't prepared and organized like we've seen in America and the UK and elsewhere. And we've talked to a lot of people on the ground there, and they realize now that it's come to their shores that they need to get better organized and mobilized. And really, it's about speaking up and speaking out and debunking a lot of these myths and misinformation that is put out there, these claims of apartheid, these claims of ethnic cleansing, these claims that Jews are not indigenous to the land of Israel, when Jews have over a 3,000-year documented history to the land of Israel. And I think those are the things that the community in Australia needs to start making people aware about and educating people about, because once again, that sort of misinformation seems to have taken hold amongst some of the population there. And really, it's just not true. And one thing we often encourage entertainers and influencers to do is go visit Israel for themselves, see for themselves. And what's interesting is the boycott movement doesn't want that to happen. And it's because they understand that if people do go there, the narrative that they're pushing, it will not line up with that narrative. They will not see apartheid. They will not see genocide. They will not see all these wild claims made by the boycott movement, which is once again why we encourage people to go see for themselves and experience the country for themselves.
Ari Ingel, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sharri. I really appreciate it as well.